Hey guys, welcome back to r/AmiTheDevil. In this video, OP bankrupted an HOA Karen and made her homeless. Is he a bad person for doing this? Let's dive right into the video. And the title story starts like this. So I live next to a strict HOA community, the typical things that you would expect, including the fact that a total Karen runs the place. Again, I am next to the HOA, I am not part of it at all. Karen did not care, and instead she started slapping me with random fines for violations on my own property. Like whatever, I can break her rules if I want, since I'm not part of the HOA. My house is how I like it, and if she doesn't like it, well, tough luck. I ignored the fines and didn't think that anything was actually gonna happen. I mean, I knew she was a Karen and a bit entitled, but I didn't think she was insane. I didn't know too much about her before all of this happened either. Well, instead of letting it go, Karen started to harass and flat out bully me for no reason. She started insisting that I was a member and could not get away with doing anything I wanted, sending me a ton of letters about how I had to pay or make major changes to my house. It wasn't just some tiny thing I could have fixed just to make her shut up either. She wanted me to redo my entire walkway because it wasn't how everybody else's looked. So now I had to go and start looking up a bunch of paperwork to just prove something that we both already knew. She even offered me to give an HOA discount for her company that did landscaping and I guess could also redo a walkway. It felt like I was being extorted into hiring her to give her money, or else I would be forced to pay a fine and give her money. I think anybody could see the problem with that. And well guys, you gotta give some props to the HOA Karen for this scamming operation. Anyway, I sent in the papers to the HOA, and after I did all of that, Karen just flat out ignored the proof I gave her. She doubled down and started threatening to double the fines every single day so that I didn't start to fix anything. She even waited until people were outside to come up to me and start berating me for not complying, telling me how I was hurting everybody else because I wanted to be a problem. I sent the papers a second time to Karen, and this time certified mail, so I knew she signed for it, and again, she didn't care, and I told her that the papers proved I was not in the HOA and she should just leave me alone. I was not hurting anybody, I just wanted to be left the hell alone. I tried to just explain to the other neighbors that I wasn't trying to be difficult, that I really just was not part of the HOA. Most were sympathetic but didn't want to help me go against Karen and start getting fines of their own. She was even threatening to raise annual dues for everybody else if I didn't comply. She was nuts. I had people from the city coming to inspect my property after these complaints. Things like my lawn supposedly was unkempt and had wild animals living in overgrown brush. I guess wild animals like Karens. They were just normal bushes though. The city was fine with my property. She was trying to get me in trouble with the city because I was not gonna play her game, giving her money and changing my house the way she wanted it. I then made friends with somebody who used to be on the HOA board. I was trying to contact other board members and found an old number by accident and actually got to talking. This board member left directly because of Karen. No current board members would even speak to me, so this guy was literally my only chance to get some type of information. And it turned out I was not the first person for Karen to harass, I was just the first that didn't stand for her crap. I learned that Karen had been skimming HOA funds for herself off the top and committing tax fraud with it through her landscaping business, pretending that she had more money through her business than she even did. The old board member didn't want to do anything, but I was ready to get some revenge on Karen. And sure, it was a moral dilemma to maybe ruin her life, but she was ruining mine instead. Fair is fair if you ask me. So I reported Karen to the IRS about her fraud, and I could have stopped there, but I didn't. I tipped off a journalist at a local paper about the tax fraud and the HOA abuse, and the journalist did some digging, spoke to more people that I guess she had wronged, and wrote something slamming the entire HOA, even blaming residents for just blindly being compliant too. I had nothing to do with that, but since I tipped off the journalist, I was getting blamed for it. For a while, the IRS did investigate Karen, and her company ended up going bankrupt. She financially collapsed along with losing her position on the HOA. She was so broke that she lost her house as well. She didn't sell it, she lost it. Karen went from the HOA head hotshot to just a homeless lady. Around now is when I started to get told off by people. Suddenly, I was being seen as bad for reporting her and getting her name dragged through the mud. I guess because with her name in the news, she could not get a job or something, and these same people hated Karen, but since I was the one that took actions that led to her losing her home, I was suddenly in the wrong. Nobody wanted her on the HOA board once she was exposed, and even the people that fought to have her removed for it. They even celebrated the fact that she was off the HOA, but now suddenly she was homeless and I was supposed to feel bad about it. Well, I didn't. I tried to explain to people that told me I went too far why I took the actions that I did. Before I had kept some of the things to myself, but now that I was being told that I was an a-hole, I let everybody know how far Karen had gone. How she was gonna try and take my home from not paying fines, and she was reporting me about my property to the city. I found out more in the following weeks though about Karen's current situation. She was at a temporary shelter but couldn't stay there after a certain number of days. She was literally on the streets and somebody saw her sleeping at a park at one point. It was like everyone's minds had been erased to the fact that Karen was a bad person. They were taking up a collection to try and help her get money for a temporary place. I told them off for it and they seemed shocked that I didn't want to donate any money to Karen. I was loudly against the entire thing since she had stolen enough money from people. Neighbors were telling me that I was being unnecessarily cruel and should have compassion for somebody who was homeless. I blame the gossip train around here for the fact that they hated her one minute and the next they want to raise money. Nobody wants to seem like they are on the wrong side of the drama around here. Some people thought I was wrong for the entire thing and I should have just gotten a lawyer or not paid the fines. Well, some people think I should have reported her to the IRS, but going to the press was apparently too far and I ruined her life. I really don't see that I did anything wrong or anything outside of just fighting back after Karen was the one that started things. She started everything. I have a heart, so of course part of me feels bad at the thought of her sleeping in a park. But in my mind she brought this on herself, not me. Let me know if you think I was the a-hole or if I just exposed a Karen and she got the consequences of her own actions. And yeah guys, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Was OP the devil / a-hole or did OP do the right thing? Let me know in the comments. The first comment said, not the a-hole, you did not make her homeless, she did that herself by committing fraud, abusing her position and harassing innocent people who were not even in her HOA. Reporting illegal activity to the IRS and tipping off a journalist is not even some moral failing, it is just holding somebody accountable. Actions have consequences and Karen finally had to face hers. She was not a victim, she was a bully who got caught. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, she tried to extort you, ignored proof that you were not in the HOA and sent inspectors to harass you and threatened to take your home. If someone weaponizes power and money against you, you're not obligated to be nice back. You went through proper channels, IRS and media, and the fallout was 100% her doing. People only feel bad now because the reality of her behavior is uncomfortable to look at. Comment number 3, everyone sucks here. Look, Karen is clearly the bigger a-hole here. The fraud, harassment and abuse of HOA power is ridiculous, but tipping off the press after reporting to the IRS does feel like you escalated beyond just protecting yourself. It's understandable you were angry, but it wasn't only about stopping her, you clearly wanted to ruin her. While she absolutely had it coming to her, I can see why some neighbors think you went a little bit too far. Comment number 4, you're the a-hole. Look, I get that you were frustrated with the fines and the harassment, but going to the IRS and the press was not just about protecting yourself, it was about destroying her completely. You could have gone through civil court or mediation to settle the dispute about whether you were in the HOA, but instead you took it public in a way that made it impossible for her to recover. Now she's homeless, and whether you want to admit it or not, your actions directly caused that. HOAs exist to keep neighborhoods maintained and property values up, and from their perspective, someone living next to the community not following the same rules can be a problem. You didn't have to agree with them, but you could have handled it without ruining someone's life. The next one is another Am I the Devil story, and it is titled, Am I the Devil for punishing my daughter for not coming to my wedding? And by the way, if you enjoyed these Am I the Devil stories, please don't forget to like the video and post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support me. So I got married last weekend in my parents' house, which has been in the family for generations. For health reasons, only immediate family was there. My daughter, 16 female, had been calling her new stepmom, 21 female, names like homewrecker and prostitute, and I've been patient with her. She assumes I left her late mother because she had breast cancer. However, I did not leave her mother for having cancer. Nobody decides to have cancer. However, her late mother kept using her illness to devalue me and my sense of identity. She would criticize the way I was taking care of her, and even stuff like my hygiene or the cologne I was wearing. She basically made me feel worthless, and I felt like she was projecting her own insecurities by saying the smell of my cologne was disgusting because she never made an effort to keep herself up, and despite the fact that I objectively found her disgusting sometimes, I stuck by her until my self-esteem was destroyed. I would work hard closing deals all day and be acknowledged for my efforts at work, yet I would go home and she would criticize and nag about every ounce of my being. I met her stepmom when I was in a dark place. She made me feel like I could be myself again. My wife made me feel unattractive and sexless, and with my new wife, I felt alive. Just the fact that she appreciated me and felt physical chemistry with me made me want to do anything for her to want to provide for her. That's when I decided not to BS my wife anymore and filed for a divorce. Well, since then my daughter's relatives from her mom's side had been poisoning her against me, and last weekend when I and her stepmom went to the site of the wedding early, we expected to see her drive to the wedding later, but instead she ended up going to stay with her aunt. Everybody asked me where she was, and there was chaos from my side of the family locating her. As punishment, I took her car and allowance away and have taken her phone away until I feel that she can learn to be respectful towards someone I very much love. And that it will be impossible for her to do that if she keeps having to hear from her late mom's side of the family. My parents have called and said that I was being too harsh. However, even when things are tough, I feel I cannot let a child of mine believe they can just do whatever they want. And yeah guys, I would say this story for once is very obvious whether or not OP is the a-hole, but let me know what you think in the comments. Comment number 1 said, "You are the a-hole." Damn, you cheated on her mother. Regardless of the situation, that's all she sees. She doesn't know your marriage problems. All she knows is that you left her mom for another woman, and on top of that you're marrying said woman when your 16-year-old daughter is still trying to deal with her mother's passing. Of course she didn't want to go. You're the a-hole for not trying to be more understanding of your daughter, for trying to force her, and then for punishing her. Edit, also hold the phone. Somehow I completely missed that your new wife is 21? It makes it worse. She's only 5 years older than your daughter. They are close in age and you're still confused about her behavior? Holy cow, I cannot even. Comment number 2. Oh wow, poor guy, working like everyone else without the appreciation of his jerky cancer-stricken wife. Your hygiene directly impacts the health of someone with a compromised immune system, but who cares about a compromised immune system when you close deals all day, right? It must really suck for you that the chemicals killing the cancer in her body changed her sense of smell and ability to tolerate your cologne. That must have been like super hard for you. You're the a-hole, dude. Give your daughter back her stuff and go get some counseling. Comment number 3, your daughter's mother has been dead for 4 months. And you married someone 5 years older than her who you probably cheated on your terminally ill ex-wife with. Your daughter is grieving, and instead of you trying to comfort her, you've been gallivanting with someone who's young enough to be your daughter. And yeah guys, I gotta say, that was a complete crap show. That might have been one of the worst OPs, aka thread posters on r/AmiTheDevil that I've ever seen. What a terrible guy. Anyway, to get back to sanity, now let's read a malicious compliance story. This one is titled, "Only Phone Calls Matter." So my mother is toxic and likes to have unspoken rules for me that I never know exist until I break them. However, I have one time in my life where I broke one and decided she was gonna eat her own words because I finally had enough. Well, a few years ago, her birthday in May landed on a weekday with Mother's Day that weekend. I was busy at work that week and was already working weekends and overtime, but I always made sure to remember her birthday and Mother's Day. I bought her presents, sent her a birthday card and Mother's Day card, texted her a happy birthday and Mother's Day, and even gave a very well thought out post on her FB. It's all I had time for. However, I never heard a word from her. She didn't even call me, nor did I get a text if she even received the present that I sent her. No thank yous, just nothing. Also, I was too busy to even ask about it, and with her typical behavior of ignoring me, I just didn't press her about it. In December, a special event time came up in my life, which I told her about several times. My sister had similar events and my mother always remembered hers. So when it came and went with her saying nothing, I brought it up over text and I was told that she did not realize it was important to me. I was upset and admittedly angry over once again being ignored and forgotten about. Cue her usual deflection, in which she then turned the entire argument around on me, and that's when I found out she did receive my present 7 months later. She then told me, and I quote, You didn't think it hurt my feelings when you didn't bother to call me on my birthday or Mother's Day? Sorry, but Facebook cards just don't get it, and neither does texting. Fine, cue my malicious compliance. For the next year, she never got a text, a FB post, birthday present, Mother's Day present, Christmas present, etc., but she got her phone call on her birthday and holidays. Phone calls are the only thing now she received because, as she said, other forms of communication and thoughtful gestures did not cut it. After a year of this, my mother sends in her reliable flying monkey. My sister calls me to tell me that Mom doesn't think you love her anymore because you don't send her presents anymore. Well, I would like to say I stood my ground, but at the time I was still a doormat, so the malicious compliance ended. I'm no contact with my family now, but to this day it makes me proud that for once I used her words against her and set a boundary. She never said that to me again, so it was worth it. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. So I live in a neighborhood that on the outside looks great, but the inside is filled with more drama than one of those TV shows where the entire point is everybody in the neighborhood sucks. For us though, the people for the most part are fine. It is the HOA itself that is the real problem. They don't just want to control us, but seem to need it in order to make themselves feel good. I realized that despite all the talking I do about being eco-friendly and doing things that are good for the planet, I waste a lot of energy. Not intentionally or anything, I just seem to have the kind of brain that is up in the clouds. My electric bill is especially high, since remembering to turn things off is not my strong suit. I researched solar panels and found that they are not as expensive to install as I assumed they would be. If I had those, it would be good for the environment and my wallet. Since I know my HOA is crazy, I decided to make sure that everything will be fine in order to avoid the drama down the road. I review my HOA's covenants, conditions and restrictions, CC&Rs. There's nothing in them about not being allowed to have solar panels, so I am all good to go. My overly paranoid brain decides to just be extra careful about the whole thing though. So then I mailed a certified letter to the HOA about things that I plan to do, asking them to get back to me within 14 days if there's any problem with what I am doing. I sent it, waited 14 days, hear nothing back, so I'm good to go and install my solar panels. Right? Well, I paid somebody competent to install them because me on the roof would be a whole different kind of disaster. It is not until after they are installed that the HOA president finally decides to speak up and say something. This guy Steve just sucks in general, like even if he wasn't the HOA president, he would still suck. He started harassing me about the solar panels, claiming I never got permission to put them up. Me, I checked the rules and I even sent in a certified letter giving you ample opportunity to object to this. Steve, we never got anything in the mail. Me, it was not sent certified, so I know for a fact that you did. Either way, it's not against the rules. Steve, of course it is against the rules to make your house uglier and lower the value for everyone else. Me, actually solar panels increase the profit generally. He was not listening to a word I was saying though, and instead saw me turn into a $ right before his eyes. He had an opportunity he didn't want to let go and started fining me for my solar panels. Nothing normal either, because I was getting fines of $1,000 per day for having them. He was not trying to punish me, he was actually trying to bankrupt me and intimidate me into doing what he wanted, despite the law being on my side. He did not scare me, and I went to the board with their own CC&Rs to show that there were no restrictions or rules regarding solar panels. They were all on Steve's side for one reason or another and claim that it would still be up to their discretion if something is not in the rules. Which is just not legally true. They were continuing to make untrue claims of how the panels would lower the value of my property and refusing to look at my data that said otherwise. Maybe Steve just cannot read, so I hired a lawyer knowing what direction this was gonna go and wanted to get a jump on things before they did. He sent a letter to the HOA to stop harassing and fining me, but they just ignored it and started to double down on their efforts, which was fine by me. Steve was too arrogant to give up and instead just wanted to add more wood to the fire that was gonna burn him in the end of things, giving me more fines and thinking that he would win when things came to court. I did take them to court for the fines and harassment. It was not a secret either, as people heard about it and the news spread like wildfire to the point that it even got to the local media, who wanted to interview me and keep an eye on the case. Since it was also about renewable energy, a lot of eco groups were keeping an eye on what was happening and backing up my right for solar panels. Mostly I think other people were also sick of the HOA and happy to find some way to support against them in a large group. I had written testimony from neighbors saying that they did not mind the solar panels since I knew the HOA's only defense was going to be that nobody wanted me to have them, when really it was just Steve that seemed to have a problem with them. The judge listened to both sides and agreed with me that there was no reason the HOA should be allowed to block me from having my solar panels. Even if it was a rule, the state would supersede it with its own green laws in effect. Steve was beyond angry about the ruling and still felt like I should have to pay the fines up to the point of the court date, but was then told that all the fines he gave me were invalid and I did not owe them anything. He was also told to stop harassing me, which meant that Steve was not meant to come near me or speak to me again, or I could probably get him arrested. The HOA was also going to need to pay my legal fees as well as emotional and punitive damages, giving me a nice-sized check at the end of the court case, which I could see just made him even more red in the face. Due to everybody hating him, he was all but pushed out of the HOA for wasting money and overall just being disliked by most people. With the large knowledge of this, people jumped for the position that wanted to encourage what I did with building solar panels, making an updated version of the CC&Rs that not only mentioned eco-friendly alternatives for the home, but encouraged it, saying that homes that had something like this was good for the environment, like solar panels could even have reduced HOA dues as an incentive. I'm sure wherever Steve was hearing that was having a mini tantrum inside his own head. At the end of the day, I don't know which aspect made me happier, that I was able to keep my solar panels, that more people were doing it, or that Steve was so disgraced from everything he had to leave his position. Maybe you all have a thought on it, which of those three is the best, and I would love to hear it. And before we end the video, let's read one last story from r/malicious compliance. It is titled, "Oh, I will smile, alright. So I, 21 female, work part-time at a retail clothing store while I'm finishing college. It's your typical mall chain, overpriced basics, weird music, and managers who think the customer is always right even when the customer is actively shoplifting. One day during my shift, my manager Greg, 40s, always smells like X and insecurity, pulled me aside and said, 'Hey, I noticed you don't smile much. You should really smile more. It makes customers feel welcome.' I said, 'You mean be friendlier?' He said, 'No, literally just smile more. Even when no one's talking to you, just keep a smile on.' Okay then, Greg, you want smiles? You got it. For the rest of my shift and every shift after, I smiled, but not like normal smiling. I smiled wide with too much teeth. I smiled while folding jeans. I smiled while sweeping. I smiled while telling a Karen we didn't have her size. And I smiled at customers until they asked, 'Are you okay?' One guy legit said I looked like I was about to snap, and another one asked if I was in a cult. A little kid started crying when I greeted her at the fitting room, and co-workers got on and joined me. We started calling it smile mode. By the end of the week, it looked like a haunted mannequin showroom. Craig finally told us to tone it down. I asked sweetly, still smiling, 'Oh, I thought you said to smile more.' And he didn't bring it up again. And yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you again tomorrow. Also check out my playlist if you cannot get enough of my content.